Hi, welcome back to the next installment of Follet, the video book. We're going to begin chapter 9 today and read a little bit. It's been too long and I apologize for that, but we got a little bit of the story that probably almost anyone can enjoy, children and adults alike. Oh well, if you're ready, we'll begin. Meri and Follet drove east toward Memphis, taking the little country roads instead of the big highways. Time was not important, but discovering each other filled their hours in conversation. They slipped into being with each other like people slip into their favorite daydreams. They were comfortable together, and they caught themselves smiling at the wonder of it, even though they thought they knew what to expect. Surprise and serendipity played hide and seek with their fancies. Both of them began to hate the caddy's bucket seats. They finally came to the muddy Mississippi, a mile wide and swirling brown. As they crossed the Mississippi-Arkansas bridge into Tennessee, Meri said, "I've got to work tonight, Follet." "Okay, Meri, since you're working, let's get a room, clean up, and meet later for drinks and dinner." "Oh, Follet, you devil. At Ernestine and Hazel's?" "Meri, in Memphis, our kind stays at the Commodore. But I'd love to haunt Ernestine and Hazel's for a drink in their jukebox." "It's a date, Follet." Follet turned left on Riverside Drive and headed north and turned right at Beale Street. He crossed the tracks, and there it was, the Commodore Hotel. The Commodore Hotel, a 1920s or 30s Art Deco masterpiece with a street lamp out front and a bar in the lobby. People saw a vacant lot next to the tracks, but incubi and succubi saw a remarkable 6-story refuge from the road, a place of shelter where they could rest their bones, revive their spirits, and restore their souls. A Xanadu of terrazzo floors, curved cherry wood walls with suede and Venetian plaster accents, lit by domed sconces and gilded geometric shapes with ceiling ornamentation inspired by Cubism. In a yellow glass rotunda where sunlight cast a gorgeous golden hue during the daytime and starlight is so focused to softly illumine the night, they meet others who are called to dreams. Follet pulled into the curved driveway under a street lamp. A bellhop wearing black Horace Batten dress boots, midnight blue livery with platinum buttons, and an embroidered metallic C on his cap, opened Meri's door and helped her out of the caddy. Follet got out of the car and walked back to open the trunk. He handed his bag to the boy, and Meri and Follet followed him through the giant brass doors into the hotel. The lobby was easily 40 feet wide by 20 feet deep. The marquetry floors were intricately woven swirls of mahogany and teak. The desk was a flowing curve of cherry that complemented the walls. The hotelier recognized Follet immediately. "Follet, so good to see you. It's been far too long." "Thank you, Amandai. Far too long. Let me introduce you to my friend Meridiana." "A pleasure, Meridiana. Welcome to the Commodore." "Thank you, Ashmedai. Your hotel is exquisite." Ashmedai smiled. "The Commodore is a rare oasis in the desert of the familiar. We look forward to providing you with an exceptional experience." He turned to Follet. "We have the Lilu suite available." "That would be lovely, Ashmedai. Thank you. Meri has a job tonight. Would you please have a car ready for her in about an hour?" "It'd be my pleasure, Follet." Follet nodded. The bellhop led Follet and Meri to a brass-doored elevator. The doors were covered in minute carvings. The bellhop explained, "After Lorenzo Ghiberti finished the Gates of Paradise at the Battistero di San Giovanni in Florence, he was retained by one of our brothers to create a set of doors that honors our forebears, Lilu and Lilitu and Ardat and Irdu." The doors opened and welcomed them into the brass and cherry wood chamber that, after the bellhop pressed a button, whisked them up and up. The elevator made no sound, and the feeling of rising was as subtle as a whisper. Then the doors opened. They walked into a living room with herringbone parquet floors covered by very old Persian rugs in lilac, pale apricot, and sea foam and golden greens. Not just one in the center of the room, but 6 stunning rugs covered almost all of the wood floor. "Amritsar from northern India, probably mid-1800s, the bellhop informed them. "Dazzling," Meri said softly. The bellhop led them into the bedroom. Again, the herringbone parquetry was covered by antique oriental rugs, but these that surrounded what must have been a double king bed were much smaller. The bellboy noticed Follet's interest. "These are bakshish, camel hair prayer rugs. See the tree of life and the garden of paradise, center medallions and the corner pieces with dragon motifs? They're very rare. And again, they're probably early 1900s. The bellboy placed 2 keys on the mahogany dresser and left Meri and Follet alone. "I've got to freshen up," Meri told Follet, and walked into the bathroom, pulling her shirt off over her head, and then turning to Follet and sticking out her tongue. "See you soon." Follet smiled at the glimpse of Meri's beautiful back and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The windows were actually a pair of French doors, flanked by mullioned windows, all with cherry wood Rana-style transoms carved in Art Deco Celtic dragon designs. Follet looked out over the Mississippi and took off his shirt. He had laid it over the back of the oxblood leather Chesterfield love seat that faced the windows near the foot of the bed. Then he sat on the edge of the bed and pulled off his boots and socks, and then lay back on the big bed. He was asleep in seconds. 15 minutes later, Meri came out of the bathroom wearing a bright red silk blouse that seemed to flow as she walked. Dangling from her earlobes were small silver shield cross earrings, and hidden on a thin silver chain caressed by the swell of her breasts was a small troll cross made of cold hammer's meteoric iron, just in case. Faded Levi's, a silver concho belt, and a well-broken-in pair of chocolate brown Paul Green ankle boots, ready for work. Meri looked for Follet and found him asleep, taking up most of the big bed like a big old dog, a heart-poundingly virile big old dog. She walked to the edge of the bed, kissed her fingertips, placed her kiss on his lips, and whispered, "Lollipop with Peggy Sue. Good golly, Miss Molly was even there, too. I went and put my dancing shoes on." She grabbed one of the keys from the dresser and walked to the door. The sun was just setting over the Mississippi when Follet awoke. He stretched where he lay, rubbed his eyes, and sat up. Meri had not returned. Follet headed for the bathroom. He dropped his jeans. He wore no underwear and stepped to the sink. He rummaged through the basket of toiletries the Commodore provided for forgetful guests. He found 2 toothbrushes and unwrapped one, a tube of Theodent 300 toothpaste, a bottle of Aqua de Parma shampoo, and 2 cakes of soap, 1 Occitane milk gentle soap and 1 peppermint Castile soap. Follet brushed his teeth, unwrapped the milk soap, grabbed the bottle of shampoo, and walked into the shower. The shower was a terrazzo-tiled room unto itself. 2 walls of shower heads flanked him with the controls on the wall ahead. He placed his supplies on a little teak shelf and experimented with the handles that controlled water volume and temperature. A bank of pressure plates controlled. He found a variety of options in the direction from which the water hit him. Follet was having too much fun playing with these gadgets when he felt smooth arms slide around his back and chest. "Hi, Follet," Meri purred. "Hi, Meri. Come here often?" Follet replied as he felt Meri's thighs press against the backs of his, and her breasts push against his lower back. "We'll just have to find out how often I can come here, Follet," she told him, and he turned to face her, lowering his mouth to hers. Meri opened her lips to his kiss and slid her hands up to his biceps, to his shoulders, and pulled him closer. They stood with the water splashing over them, lips and tongues playing. Follet moved his arms to hold her, hands moving to either side of her waist, placing her torso just so. Meri closed her mouth and pecked him on the lips, ending the kiss. "Let's get you cleaned up," she said. She reached for the shelf behind Follet. She grabbed the bar of soap and held it in her left hand, under the warm water spewing from the shower head on the wall to her left. She reached down with her right hand and wrapped her fingers around Follet's penis. At her touch, it began to lengthen and harden in her hand. She used her grasp to gently push him back and turn him so that he stood between 2 jets of water, one from the left-hand wall and the other from the right. She released his tumescent rod, reached around behind him, and pushed a pressure plate. A 3rd jet of warm water showered Follet's neck and back. Follet closed his eyes and luxuriated in the rushing water. Meri held the bar of soap under the water spouting on her left, and then brought the slick, wet rectangle to rub her right hand, lathering a foamy souffle of bubbles. She took the bar and rubbed it across Follet's chest, soaping his skin and hairy chest, circling his hard nipples, and then sliding the slip bar under each arm. Follet luxuriated in the milky, clean aroma and the foamy bubbles that began to cover him. She reached in back of Follet to return the soap to the little shelf, and then moved her hands to rub the frothy suds into his skin. She massaged slick spume with the tips of her fingers, prodding his pectorals into a jabbing massage that soothed him and aroused him. She then placed her soapy hands and fingers on Follet's shoulders. She rubbed the soap into the muscles at the top of his arms and then moved down, caressing as much as cleansing, his biceps and triceps to his forearms. She seemed to linger on his strength, and Follet thought that she returned to his upper arms more than once before finally encircling his wrists with her slick fingers. She then caressed his hands and entwined her fingers in his. Then Meri moved her hands from his to under Follet's arms and rubbed the soap against his hair, once again fingering the muscles and tendons she found there. Then she slid her soapy hands out from under his armpits and over his shoulders and his collarbones to his throat. She took her hands away, reached back to the shelf for the soap, held the soap again under water, and rubbed it again until it erupted into a flood of bubbles.